but also a challenge for us, as you know. And I can say that major efforts were done in the field to improve accessibility. We have a lot to do again. As you know, we have the Olympic and Paralympic Games in 2024, so it will be a big challenge for us to welcome the world in Paris. And I hope that this event brings long-term positive social and economic changes and popularize the Olympic values such as accessibility and universal design. So it will be a great opportunity for us to improve and to, I hope, to better illustrate our commitment to quality and accessibility in Paris. Thank you so much.
Merci, Marie. La verdad es que cualquier iniciativa, la forma de trabajo, las acciones que ponga en marcha un municipio como París en cuanto a turismo, pues merecen ser seguidas por todos los destinos. Muchas gracias. A continuación, paso la palabra a Paudie Healey. Viene de Irlanda, es el CEO de Universal Access y miembro de la Junta Directiva de ENAT.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Madrid to PREDIF, for having me here, to the Madrid government. I always like coming to Madrid because it's a beautiful city and usually beautiful sunshine, but we didn't get the sunshine today yet. I would like to take us back a small bit, something that Jesus and Martin Hing said earlier. I would like to look at it from a business opportunity, because I think we can talk about compliance all day long, humans as people, but we need to engage the business sector very much to drive this forward. And the only word they understand is money, the color of money. So it's about engaging them, both the public sector and the private sector going together. I'll just go on. So first of all, when I go to businesses, be it at destination level with the public sector or be it at private level with a private business, I don't go in telling it's about a person with a disability. I go in and say, we're talking about people. And it's the disabling fact is the environment, the product, the service. So we have to change that. So realistically, when we talk about accessibility, we're talking about everyone, from the young families, pregnant women, all the way up with buggies, heavy suitcases, and then right into all the different impairments. And we shouldn't make it as a niche market, I believe, because we're talking about people. Everyone is a person, and it's very important to respect everyone and to give them a quality service. When we talk about accessibility, it's very important that if we look at it from the Design for All Foundation or universal design, we're looking at it is essential for 10% of the population. It's necessary for 40%, but it's comfortable for every one of us. So if we begin to build it in at the outset, it becomes an absolutely great way for future-proofing assets and bringing value to assets as we move forward. This is a very important slide, I think, because when you look at it, seniors make up 2/3 of the disability market, accessible tourism, as we're aging. Now, we all know that aging all over the world we're all living longer, and that's going to keep happening over the next number of decades. So we have to prepare for that. And I think from this statistic we'll see here, at the age of 65, we have over 43% of females will have some type of a disability. With the males, it'll be only 30%. But for all the ladies in the room, the men will be dead first. So when we move forward, we have to make sure that we're catering for that market. That's very, very important. In Europe, over 25%, nearly 25% of the population have an access need. So if we look at it, we are now catering for nearly 200 million people. So what business or what city does not want to have 200 million people there as an opportunity for more business. Over 55 accounts for 39% of the tourism markets. So again, we must prepare to get that. Seniors take 6 to 7 trips per year in Europe. They spend more and they stay longer. So all of a sudden, this is becoming very simple mathematically. It's just very good business to make sure you include everyone in society. Persons with disabilities, as we know, travel on average with 1.9 people. But it's a lot more, as Martin said this morning, and Martin is a very good example. Coming from Melbourne, he comes, stays for 1 week, but not alone. He brings his 2 daughters and his wife. Now, that's a huge value to Madrid for the week. And Madrid is able to take it as a city. They're prepared, they're opening up, welcoming, but every other business in Europe needs to see that opportunity as well. Worldwide, and it's going to change, in cities that are out after conferences, seminars, and events, the person that makes the final decision is going to be looking at the access of that city, that destination, and that business. And that's huge business for anyone that's in that conferencing business. We all understand that. So again, it makes good sense to be accessible. Finally, on that slide, I thought it was very interesting. In Madrid, and I just took it out to the census, and it was a 2011 census, you've nearly 1 million people inside in Madrid that's over the age of 65. That's probably more. So straight away in Madrid, for private businesses and for the public sector, it makes great sense, because that's 1 million people on your doorstep that is looking for accessible services, especially in the tourism market. Just to bring it a little bit wider from the different countries, in the UK, Visit England started doing surveys to quantify it, and they said, and the decision, how they did the survey was a person where the member of the party has an impairment made a decision where they were going. And on average, they brought in 12.4 billion euro into that economy from accessible tourism. And they're only tipping at the very edge on that. But the nice thing about it, they stayed 3.3 nights, they stayed longer than a normal tourist coming in, and they spent more. Now, I think that's very important. And the second one, we'll just go to a smaller country in Scotland. And in Scotland, a small country, 1.5 billion euro. The minister said at an ENAT conference last year for national tourism organisations, the minister said in Scotland that accessible tourism now was the most important thing they had for that country, because it was driving the economy and it was the way forward. But if we look at what they did, since 2009, their mainstream tourism was down by 3%, but their accessible tourism grew by 21%. And when you do a correlation into the value of that tourism, all their tourism was up by 6%, but their accessible tourism was worth a value of 20% more. So it just makes good business sense. In Killarney, that's my hometown, in Ireland, would you believe, we have no national policy. So I'm in the private sector. Every day I go out to promote in creating a destination or businesses. It's with my own money. I don't get funded by nobody. So I am putting my money where my mouth is by actually going and giving the business opportunity to the businesses. For last year, ENAT, and I'll show you more about that in a moment, are bringing out a new international label program, which will be for every country. And we tested that in Ireland last year. We had an oversubscription. We wanted probably in the basis of 7 or 8 hotels to go through this process. We ended up with over 20, and we had to come back with 12 eventually. Now, what they did and what they went through, we trained over 440 managers and operation staffs inside 3 weeks, and every one of them hotels paid for that themselves, their consultancy. It wasn't free. They actually paid for it themselves. We'd completed all website audits, did audits on the built environment, products and services, delivered reports to them. Then we started creating action documents, access guides, and access policies. Because at the end of the day, what we were trying to do is to embed it. It just becomes part of the business culture. The exact same as they have housekeeping, as they have accounts, as they have marketing. Accessibility now is inside in their private businesses as just another part, and it becomes a normal part because they understand the value of what it's worth to them. They don't see any person coming in the door now with a disability. They see the person coming in as a person looking for a service that has money to pay. And that's where we're trying to create and get them to. So can we afford to lose that business? Just to give you a couple of examples, I showed you national figures, but just to give you a quick example from down at a local level. One of those hotels, on the back of the training and the policies we created, won a contract for a conference. Accessibility was part of the tender process, and it was worth €250,000 to them for 2 years of the conference. They got a 900% return on that one piece of business. Now, them figures are unbelievable. That hotel now is doing everything on accessibility. They're making sure that it's part of their brand because it's good for them. It allows, because what they want is to make sure that the guests they had yesterday, as they're aging, they want to keep them for tomorrow. So now they must know, they must prepare the product, the service, and the offering. Another hotel where we did training on it, they had very little take-up in accessible rooms because they expected the person with an accessible need to come up and to ring or to knock on the door and say, I'm here. But we told them, no, you must market it, but you must market it as accessible to all. And the last 12 months, I got the figures before I came here, that same hotel has now 93% occupancy inside their accessible rooms. So again, they're absolutely delighted. Very quickly, hotels that create and go on to WCAG accessible websites, one of them in particular, which was not part of the pilot, their online bookings grew within 12 months by 28% when they went accessible. Now that's huge. When you start talking that business to any business, they understand that. 28% increase on the last year, fantastic. And a restaurant, by training again, because training is very important in all the sector, I think, and we all agree with that. If you don't get the training, it takes away most of the barriers. Training can take away an awful lot of barriers. And in the training, where we trained restaurants, from improving layouts, fonts and menus, waiters got 12% more orders per server. They are facts. And one international group who had 50 hotels on the first year after their training increased their revenue by 15,000 extra bedrooms. These are all coming statistically from the private sector. So I think it's a huge opportunity, and that's why I'm delighted as well today to thank you for being here, to be able to just give 2 seconds on ENAT and what ENAT is doing internationally. As we've heard this morning, everyone is making reference to ENAT, and that is fantastic to hear. They're recognized now globally as the leaders, as the place to go to get information, resources. Ivor would have said the big land bank of information that's there is huge. So next year, the international quality label will be launched, and it's a certification process. So it's part of it will be access policies for businesses in place to give equal opportunity as you, the customer, but also as the employer, because it's very important that people with disabilities get into employment. And if the facilities or the products and the services are right for the customer, then they're right for the employee as well. So we'll get more people working, and that's very, very important. Second thing, it's very important that we audit and get quantified information from buildings, the facilities, and the services. Staff training is another.